Well, ladies and gentlemen, here at TrojanInsider.com, we don't like to be too negative, but we just have to tell you the facts sometimes. This potentially is one of the worst seasons since 2000 when USC went 5-7, and tonight they stand currently at 5-6 after a loss 34-27 to, of course, the crosstown rivals, the UCLA Bruins. Pete Ghersen and Scott Schrader here at the Rose Bowl. Scott, a beautiful venue here at the Rose Bowl, but not a beautiful night if you're a Trojan.
This is a beautiful venue. I mean, I was looking forward to coming here. It could have been Crenshaw versus Dorsey, and I would have had a great time at the Rose Bowl, 12:30, beautiful day. And, you know, USC just played its 11th football game like it's played pretty much everyone. Just found a way to lose.
Exactly.
You know, whether it's bad snaps, bad penalties, personal foul stuff, bad play calling, whatever it is, this team is just finding ways to lose. And they lost to a really, I mean, average is probably too positive. Yeah. UCLA is a very bad football team. You know, and they ran the ball for 288 yards. You know, offensively, if they weren't running the ball, passing the ball, it was 2 yards here, 2 yards there, and then heaving balls up in the air. And USC DBs had no idea who they were defending, and the ball just came down in their hands. I mean, maybe that's not exactly how it happened, but it just feels like same old.
Yep. You said it on your Twitter and stuff, and you tell me it. USC finds a way to lose a football game. They jumped out to a lead. The special teams played great. They blocked a punt and returned it for just a few yards for a touchdown. And the momentum seems to be going USC's way. But once again, you mentioned the penalties, the personal fouls. Brandon Peely got way too emotional here just behind where we're standing. It was going to be a third down for UCLA, and Peely throws a punch. I don't know how he didn't get ejected. He threw, if you watch the replays, he absolutely threw a haymaker.
See, I was at the other end of the field. I couldn't see it.
He threw a haymaker and just got a 15-yarder. Clay Helton was about as furious as I've seen him all year. He usually doesn't go after his players like that, but it was a huge moment in the game.
He probably should.
He definitely should have. And it affected USC. Obviously, we're not going to call that as the reason USC blew the lead today. The rush defense wasn't there. We asked Clancy Pendergast, did they surprise you with some of their play calls and some of their looks on a Chip Kelly offense that usually loves to run the ball? You knew that was coming. Yeah. He's run the ball when he was in Oregon, ran the ball in Philadelphia with LaShawn McCoy. For some reason, USC couldn't stop this UCLA rushing attack, and they ran all over him. 280 yards for Joshua Kelly himself. That just can't happen. JT Daniels threw some questionable balls. Some of those ones where he just throws it up there, and it seems like it's just hanging, and a couple of them weren't even close to a USC defender. But you're right. Wilson Speight isn't the most highly touted prospect as a quarterback in the country. He's 24 almost in a couple weeks here.
But that's why he didn't make dumb mistakes. You know, and JT, JT threw some balls. You know, I was just talking to his dad. Carson Palmer threw more bad passes than JT ever will. He was an interception waiting to happen. I guess where I'm going with this, the USC's issue is not the quarterback. I read some stuff where the JT needs to be benched. I mean, look at the first half. You know, JT threw
218 yards. Right? Yeah, it was a career high for JT, 337, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
So those interceptions are awful. But that kind of stuff can be eliminated really easily. But the good plays, the pass to Amon-Ra in the corner of the end zone, those passes, even the one at the end of the game where they didn't call pass interference, that was a beautiful pass to Velus Jones.
And it was pass interference. Velus' arm was being grabbed.
I was right there.
It was clear as, it was ridiculous.
Anyway, you know, those plays, you know, maybe affected the outcome, but at best USC was going to tie the game and go into overtime. So, you know, it was just a game where USC found ways to lose. They get to the 30-yard line, and then they go backwards. Those Toas false start. Was there 2 of them in a row?
2 on one drive on your center, causing a false start. He didn't have any terrible snaps tonight like we've seen in the past, but 2 false starts on your center when he's the one snapping the ball and he's moving his head up like this. Doesn't make sense. John Houston Jr. went down at halftime and never returned. Said Ware went down with a shoulder injury, and Clancy said it. John Houston was a huge loss in that linebacker position for the Trojans. And that's a big reason why the run game took off. But it's still this. It seems like
Levi Jones either.
Levi was dismissed last weekend on Friday night after not complying with team rules in the hotel, but that's a whole other story and had nothing to do with this ball game. But the Trojans are facing a UCLA team that went 0-5 to start the season. You said it. They're even an average would be a compliment to this team, who's now 3-8, and people in the early part of the year didn't know if UCLA was going to win a ball game. And tonight they look like a totally different team. And Scott, you said something interesting before we even went on air. You said that you can't really say that this USC team is struggling from a youth problem anymore. These freshmen have pretty much a full season under their belt, so you can't keep complaining and putting the blame on that the players are too young.
You can with a quarterback. You can understand with a quarterback how they might be making some decisions that it takes longer, I think, for a quarterback to develop, his comfort level in college and some other positions. But youth is an issue. I won't dismiss that completely. But you can't keep playing the youth card but youth injuries and whatnot. That is a big factor. But UCLA doesn't have the talent to beat USC, and they did.
Yeah, it was a tough night for us Trojan fans and everyone around. Players, you could tell it on their face walking out. You could say it was a bit of a lost season, but now we might not be going bowling. You might have an entire Christmas break off, Scott. Not traveling anywhere other than for recruiting purposes.
We'll be going to the All-America Bowl presented by American, I forget what insurance it is, but Family Insurance, and the Polynesian Bowl. So I have that to look forward to. And
unless USC pulls off the upset of the century next week against a Notre Dame team that beat a very good Syracuse team today 36-3. Meanwhile, USC scored 3 points in the second half against UCLA. It's the second straight week that USC failed to score a touchdown in the second half. Unless USC upsets Notre Dame, USC is going to end the year at 5-7. As I mentioned, the first time they've done that since the year 2000, and they will not go bowling. So it was tough for all the players.
So, I mean, when we look at that, and you're seeing a pattern of penalties and misplays, second halves where they're scoring no points or 3 points, that's a pattern. And we're not going to harp on this whole thing because, it's from us watching this and the fans watching this, there's only one conclusion that we can come to, and that USC needs a change at the top with the head coaching position. But, the word is that, that's probably not going to happen. Clay's probably coming back. And so where does USC go from there? Do they get a big-time offensive coordinator? Do they add some other coaches? Because there are good coaches on this football team. I just think sometimes the head coach, maybe he's not a bad coach, because there's coaches that have. Bill Belichick was a complete failure with the Cleveland Browns. Sometimes it's just not working.
Yeah.
And it's not working. Something is not working. But there's a lot of positives to think about with this football team. They have some really, really good young players who are dedicated and they hate losing. So this is a team that's not far from being a really good team, but they just need some major change going on with the leadership.
And speaking about coaches and leadership, Bill Plaschke was here today, of course, LA sports writers covering the biggest game in LA. And I asked him, I said, do you think this is it for Clay now after the game? Is this the final nail in the coffin? He said, I think so. I think Clay will come back next week for Notre Dame because there's no point in sacking him with one game left. But Plaschke said that Clay's gone. I was also, when we were interviewing Clancy was asked, are you coming back next year? And it was kind of an unsure answer. He said, I'm going to go in on Monday to the office, and I'm going to look at the film, and we're going to work for next week. So a little bit of unsure answer. I think
this was the first week, though. This was the first post-game where you had a sense that there wasn't this strong confidence that they were coming back as a staff.
Yeah.
I didn't ask John Baxter that or ask him specifically, but, at some point, I understand there was a Rose Bowl 1-2 years ago, but this football team has not gotten better. It's gotten worse since then. So
Adoree Jackson is not on this field anymore. Sam Darnold's on this field. It's a very, very different squad. Speaking of T. Martin, I think it's safe to say he's not coming back, right?
Right. I just can't see him coming back. And let me just say this. I don't know what the dynamics were with T. Martin at USC with the play calling and the coordination of the offense, but T, it's shocking to me that the offense has been as bad as it has been at times, because T is a bright guy. He is smart. I was talking to Greg Biggins last night, who knows T, worked with T in Elite 11. T is a bright guy. I mean, he's an impressive guy. So I'm at a loss for words on why the offense at times has been so awful and the play callings look so bad.
Yeah. inept. And some of the plays, USC on 2nd and 1s, 3rd and 1s, they throw the ball 40 yards down the field and then put themselves in a 4th and 1 situation and have to punt. Or today they got a nice fake punt with Eric Kromenik, the tight end, running it for 8 yards. But for the most part, the offense has not been able to get a rhythm all season. And for some reason, they can't make adjustments at halftime. USC goes into the half with the lead.
Coaching?
Yes, it is. People always talk about, even not just football, basketball, other sports. When you have a halftime, you regroup, you kind of meet with the guys, meet with your coaches, and come out with another plan in the second half.
Yeah.
It seems like USC's had leads at halftime, and they like to go into the second half with a bit of confidence, and for some reason give it up.
All right. Well, so there's a part of this football team, though, that we've seen. A coach that has been criticized heavily at times, John Baxter. You look at last year, USC was trying to figure out how they were going to get a kicker. I'm telling you, you were with me in practices. These balls were going left and right. I mean, it was like a golfer that was duck hooking balls, slicing them. Next thing you know, the kicking game got good.
Reed Budovich, yeah.
The punt returning thing never got good. But this year, special teams has been a strength of this football team. The punting was awful at the beginning of the year, and John Baxter and I talked about that, and he challenged his kickers. He opened up the competition for it, and the punting game has been, I mean, that punt where they dropped into Dom Davis's arms at the 2-yard line, I mean, that kind of stuff is, that's really fun to watch. So John is managing to get his players developed and get them to be going in the right direction. So, I mean, can the rest of the team, with this staff kept intact in total, do that going forward? I don't know.
Scott, I have a question for you. A couple embarrassing losses against a Cal team and UCLA team that USC definitely went in as favorites and definitely should have beaten. Does this affect recruiting in any way? There's almost two. Okay, give me your answer.
I mean, it can affect recruiting. I think right now, more importantly, it's recruits want to know if there's going to be a coach by December 19th when they're going to sign. A lot of them are like, if Clay comes back, we're good. If Clay doesn't come back, we need to know who the coach is going to be by December 19th. Somebody like Brew McCoy could end up at Texas if USC doesn't figure this coaching situation out. So the coaches are telling recruits they're coming back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but the recruits and their parents are being told that the staff, at least certain staff members, are coming back. Key ones. So it can affect recruiting because your offensive lineman. I get text messages from parents and they're like, WTF? Are kids going to get developed? And that's a fair.
It is, yeah.
It's a fair question. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, you're right. Some of the linemen haven't improved, and the way I see it is that we were talking about this before, and you agreed. Some kids see USC struggles as, hey, maybe that's an opportunity for me to play once I get to USC. I'm not going to have to sit for 2 years and behind all these starters, especially now with USC going to lose a lot of seniors, especially on defense. Cam Smith is going to go. Marvell Tell is going to go. Jenna Harris. A lot of those guys are going to be gone. Porter's obviously gone.
Yep.
And so there's opportunities for playing time. But you're right. It's either, yes, this team's struggling, so I know I can play. Yeah. Put me in, coach. Or the other way to look at it is, I don't really want to go to a USC team who's in kind of a downturn right now. I'd rather go to, a Washington State who's an 8-1 team. Maybe even they want to go to UCLA, who's only a couple wins less than the Trojans, and they have Chip Kelly coaching them if they believe in that more.
I'm not feeling that they have to worry about UCLA right now.
Okay. Well, maybe UCLA's not, but the rest of the country is a threat.
They just have to worry in general. These kids are looking at other schools. Most of the kids USC is going after right now are more inclined to go to schools not called UCLA.
Alabama.
Right. Well, even the Pac-12, Washington, Oregon, who's no better than USC in my opinion, Arizona State, who, they're going hard after these kids. Antonio Pierce is not joking around. He gets around. He goes and shows these kids how much he wants them.
And Herm Edwards.
Yes. So you have, you and I talked about this, Charlie Weiss. Notre Dame was awful. But Charlie Weiss sold that playing time. You come in and you're going to play right away. So there is some of that going on right now. And kids are seeing that. They're also seeing USC as a young team, an injured team, has a young quarterback. They're seeing all this stuff from a perspective that maybe fans aren't, maybe even not even from a realistic perspective. I don't know. That's not for me to answer.
Speaking of the youth, I was filming Max Brown this week, making a little speech, kind of an inspirational speech. Max Brown obviously had a bit of a tough time here at USC, had to transfer to Pitt. Now he's trying to go into broadcasting. He's still actually trying out for pro teams too. Yeah. But he made a speech telling players about their life off the field and how to focus and enjoy everything that they're getting at USC. And it was all the freshmen. It was like a freshman orientation class. And I think USC has bright days ahead of them because JT Daniels, a couple of the kids were chatting. I'm not going to name names, but JT Daniels looked over to the kids and said, "Hey guys, stop talking, shut up. Let's listen to this valuable information that we're getting from Max Brown and there's a couple other NFL players." Kid. And so JT, just that little snapshot that I saw of JT, I mean, of course we see him every day and you can tell the kid's mature, but the way that he led his team throughout the season and little bits like that where he wants guys to focus. He's a hard worker, and he took all the blame for his interceptions today when we interviewed him. He's a very straight-up guy. So plays like that, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was sitting in the front of the classroom, was asking about networking. So you got these guys that are intelligent, hungry. I think they want to win. People question, are the USC players playing for themselves?
About the effort these kids are putting in and how much they want to win. That is not being questioned, and I don't think there's any question about it. These kids want to win. They are trying their hardest, and they're working hard, and they don't ever give up. But sometimes, they're just not led the way they maybe need to be. I don't know. But anyway, so we'll try and wrap this up.
Yeah, we will. I just wanted to end it, with something positive, that there's a bright future ahead. There's like a stockpile of freshmen at USC right now that are so. EA is so talented. Amon-Ra is so talented. I mean, Stephen Carr's only a sophomore. He's got plenty of time to develop. He's just been hampered by injuries. So I think
Devin Williams,
you're right.
Even guys that have played a little bit.
Yeah, Devin Williams is a physical specimen, 6'5", and he can just go up there with the best of them. But these guys will get their time. The USC is kind of filtering out these seniors now, and these guys will get their time. I think this Trojan squad with a good recruiting class coming up. I think there's brighter days ahead.
So anyway, we'll move on to next week, and we'll be at practice, and we'll talk about that, and maybe there'll be something going on. I don't know. Maybe I don't think it'll be no announcement before the Notre Dame game's over with, but we'll see what's going on. And
it seems that Lim Swan and Clay Helton are so confident that Clay's coming back next year.
Right.
But a beatdown next week at Notre Dame could change a bit of that. Well, we don't know. We thought a loss at UCLA could change that. Do you think USC has any chance?
I think there's a better chance of him returning than not.
Yeah, I agree. But do you think USC has any chance in beating Notre Dame?
No.
Zilch?
Not any chance.
I'll give us a 5% chance. Alrighty. So for Peter Ghersen and Scott Schrader and TrojanInsider.com, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Check out the website and the Twitter feed for more analysis. We got our game article going up, player interviews. We got everything.
All right.
But for all of us here at the Rose Bowl, we'll say thanks for tuning in and good night.